company called Call Porter. So they provide they're an answering service specifically for real estate investors. They're US based, and a lot of our REsimpli users are using Call Porter and super duper happy with their service. So we're just going over some of the best practices Vince has to share on, what he's noticing some other successful investors doing in their business, that's working for them. Hey guys, my name is Sharad. I'm the owner and founder of REsimpli. So we do these calls every Tuesday, 2 o'clock EST. And now, we try to divide our calls into 4 pillars of a successful real estate investing business, your data, marketing, sales, and operations. And in this call, I wanted to bring on Vince and Madison from our team had been connecting for the last couple of weeks. So I thought it would be a great idea to bring Vince over and just talk, help us with a little bit on the sales side of the business and give us some kind of best practices on what he's noticing, from coming from Call Porter, working with tons and tons of real estate investment companies, some best practices on what some other successful companies are doing, where are able to convert more leads into deals. So Vince, welcome to the
Thank you.
mastermind call. And then if you want to give a quick intro, and then we can get right into the call.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Vince, and I'm with Call Porter. I'm the affiliate manager there, just overseeing all things joint venture, business development, affiliates, and things of that sort. Previously was head of sales there, and kind of moving into this role, which is pretty cool. For those of you that don't know what Call Porter is, we are literally the nation's only real estate specific call center. So if you have inbound leads that are coming off of your marketing efforts, whether that be like direct mail, a TV ad, radio ad, a door hanger, a bandit sign, social media ads, direct traffic to a website, whatever it is that's coming inbound, our call center is going to be there to live answer the phone calls. And then also they can make outbound calls on those more online leads like social media, direct traffic to website, social media, PPC ads, things like that.
And you guys, all of your agents are based in US, correct?
Very good question. Yeah. So all of our agents are US based, which is pretty awesome. So of course there's other live answering call centers that are out there, but what makes us unique is real estate specific and then 100% US based.
Cool. Awesome. So guys, if any of you guys have any questions, feel free to either put it in the chat or, unmute yourself unless when you had a presentation you wanted to go through, or you could just share some of the best practices that you're noticing, that some of our users, active real estate investors can start applying in their businesses.
Yeah, not necessarily, necessarily a presentation, but definitely, can give you kind of like a flow of how things work. And then, any questions you guys have, definitely throw them at me. We can kind of go through it. So essentially, if you are actively marketing yourself, Call Porter makes more sense for active, consistent investors. So if this is, a hobby to you or, something that you're just kind of dabbling in and out of, Call Porter doesn't really make sense because you need to have a consistent, steady amount of phone calls or leads coming in for this to make sense. So essentially what's going to happen is I'll use the example of direct mail. So if any of you are using direct mail, that if you're sending thousands of pieces out, you are going to get some responses. And if you can't be there to consistently live answer those or have an assistant in your team or whatever it might be, that's where a company like Call Porter comes in. So we're going to answer the phone as your business. So right off the get-go, it's going to seem like you have a legit assistant within your office. And they're all trained in real estate. So they know all the aspects of real estate investing and also on the retail side of things too. So that's like another arm of our company is we have, call answering for real estate investors and call answering for real estate agents. But right off the get-go, you're the seller's going to just get a feel that this is your assistant within your office. Very conversational in their approach to asking questions. They're not robotic by any means. And then when they're on the phone, they're going to process and qualify that lead, and they're going to integrate with your CRM, which in this case would be REsimpli. which we integrate very, very well with REsimpli users. It's something that our reps see very often, and we integrate with your CRM. And then at that point, whenever we basically go through a qualified lead, which on our end of things would be, gathering property information, motivation to sell, price point, and a time frame, we'll go into appointment setting for you on your
So
calendar.
are you guys coming up with what's a qualified lead, or is that something the investor would tell you, okay, if this is, these are the criteria, if the lead meets these, then mark it as qualified?
Both. So
Okay.
some investors are like, we just want your reps to do it, and send us that data. And then there's others that essentially what they do, just depending on their CRM, they'll build out their web form
Right.
a certain way, and then we just follow that web form to the T, and then
Got it.
shoot it over to them.
And then, and I mentioned, and which makes sense, that it makes sense to have, call porter as the answering service if you're getting certain number of calls a month. If you're just getting one call a month, then of course, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
Have you noticed like a minimum threshold for number of calls that, if let's say whatever that might be, 20, 25, 30, 50 calls per month, that beyond that number, that's where like it really adds a ton of value?
Yeah, good question. So I would say honestly, 15 to 20 minimum.
15 to 20.
So yeah, that typically is for, newer investors might still work a W-2 or something like that. Maybe they're not pumping out a ton of marketing at that point, but they definitely don't want their calls to be missed, because we found, just being a business for quite some time, and we process, tens of thousands of calls each month, that, realtors that are investors that fail to pick up their phone the first time, you have a very large potential to losing a deal, which is why this company even started in the first place.
All right. And then do you guys notice, I'm just curious, you have so much data on the calls coming in. Is there like, a day of the week or time of the day when, you notice a spike in calls, or it's pretty,
Yep.
spread out for you guys over? I mean, I would imagine like weekend it slows down, at least that's what we notice
Yeah.
in our system. It slows down on the weekend, but curious like what you noticed as far as calls
Yeah.
coming in.
So 10 a.m. to like 4 p.m. Central Time is peak business hours for us. So
Right.
huge influx of calls coming in. Obviously, nights and weekends, it's less. And that goes with this note as well, that we are a 24/7 call center. And so we have plenty of investors as well that do have a team during business hours that are answering calls and following up and things like that. But on nights and weekends, they turn that off. They turn their call forwarding on to us, and then we process and qualify for them on nights and weekends.
Got it. And then have you guys noticed any patterns on, teams that are successfully closing deals? Like you notice that, they're doing, let's say, this one thing, and they do that, and then, you can start seeing some correlation between teams that are doing, this one thing in their business are more successful than others.
Yeah, I mean, obviously follow up, like fortunes in the follow up. So,
Right.
investors and teams that are following up are doing better than most. And then obviously the live answer is super successful. And we have a service called Instant Web Lead Capture and Dial, which a lot of investors have success with. So if you're marketing yourself online, right, you're getting that direct traffic to a website, or you're doing social media ads or things like that, we can hook up with those leads, and my phone reps will actually make an outbound call on your behalf in as little as 90 seconds on average. So the whole idea is speed to lead. So let's say you do have a carrot site, for example, and someone goes to your landing page and they fill out information, name, phone number, email, property address. We'll hook up with that. We'll call out, and it's as easy as that. And then same process goes, we'll just say, hey, this is so-and-so from such and such company. So it still sounds like you have an assistant within your office. And then we just go in and process and qualify that lead through your CRM, book appointments, things like that.
Got it. So with what you mentioned, if you have a lead coming in from, your Facebook ads, PPC, or, any paper lead or whatever that might be source that. So you have somebody from call portal, like calling that lead out within 60 to 90 seconds. That's going to be awesome, man. I mean, I think that's where you're going to start seeing much better conversion, especially on these online leads where somebody's going on the
Absolutely.
website and filling out 10, these, 5, 6 forms, and you reach out to them before they have time to start filling out other forms.
Yeah, and I'll note on the instant web lead capture and dial that we'll make that call, outbound call, within the hours of 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Central Time. Just after those hours, it's illegal for us to make a
Right.
phone
So
call at
just to
10
be
p.m.
like
Right.
TCPA compliant. Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
exactly. So what happens is if someone submits information online, it will go into a queue and we'll touch base with them the next business day. So if we integrate very well with Carrot, so if you have an investor Carrot site, the reach out to those leads is super easy, and we want to make it more automated, right? So we create a integration with Carrot, and then the lead comes in. Our phone system actually makes an automated call, and then my phone rep picks up on it. So there's nothing manually happening once you set all the integrations in, which is fantastic. If you don't have a Carrot site, you have another site like a WordPress or something like that, or social media ads. If you have someone that's helping you with those leads, most of the time, what we need is an integration, like a Zapier integration to a Google Sheet, which then you would share with our team. We would build out our own integration, and then that automation would just again begin to happen.
Got it. Yeah. So in the case of Carrot site you mentioned, so if as soon as a lead is created on the website, and once you've done integration, whether it's Carrot or non-Carrot site, basically a call is originated to the lead or to somebody on your team. Once somebody picks up, then it makes a call to the lead, right?
Exactly.
So there's always going to be a live person on the call.
Yeah. And then on those online leads, if, like, let's say we make the call and the person doesn't pick up,
right,
our system will leave like a generic voicemail that it sounds relevant enough to real estate, but not specific to one person's company, obviously. And then the system will make another call 30 minutes later. And again, we have a phone rep on the phone at all these points. If they don't pick up, it'll call back 3 hours later. And if they don't pick up, it'll call the next business day. So we will attempt 4 different times for you on those online leads.
Got it. That's awesome. Yeah, that's definitely going to help on the, converting more of these leads into deals or, appointments or offer just to get it to the next stage. And I'm curious,
Yeah,
like,
sure.
I know you guys book appointments for investors, but do you guys also act as like an inside sales agent where you are trying to qualify the leads, asking them, trying to get some more information, maybe potentially making an offer to disqualify the lead, or you would not do that? You would just, make an appointment and then let the investor make a decision on that.
Right. Yeah. Because investors are so different on, numbers are usually pretty similar, but they are different from investor to investor. And what we will do is, when we are kind of getting information about the property, we will ask them, what's your asking price? What would you sell the property for? And is the price negotiable? So you will at least have those notes going into it. And we also pull up like Zestimate for rental value and home value, and we'll give you those notes as well.
Got it. But you're not trying to, if the seller does not give a number, you're not trying to say, hey, like a 50 to 60% of Zillow.
Right. Yeah, we're not gonna do that. Yeah.
Mark had a question. What about RBM, incoming calls from RBM? Mark, do you want to unmute yourself? And I'm not sure if I follow the question.
I understand what he's saying.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I got I don't know if Mike came on. Or Mark, it was Mark. So basically with ringless voicemails, depending on the call provider that you're using that on, you would have to set some sort of call flow to where when someone would get that missed call and they called that number back, we would give you a forwarding number that would essentially come to call Porter, and then our phone reps would pick up on it. The thing with ringless voicemails, though, is when people call in, right, they're going to be like, why the hell did you call me? Who is this, right? So our reps are familiar with that, but that's basically how that works.
Yeah, and one other thing I want to note about RVM is previously you could change the outbound caller ID on RVM. Now you cannot do that. Now it's illegal to do that. Just like on SMS, you can still change the caller ID on a call that you're making, but you no longer can do that on an RVM or SMS anymore. I mean, SMS, you could never do that, but on RVM, you could not do that. However, when somebody calls you back, the calls can automatically be forwarded to one of the phone numbers that you have in REsimpli, and then you can have them forwarded to call forwarder. But like Win said, I personally would not have the RVM callbacks go to call forwarder, because most of the time people calling back are like, hey, why did you call me? I got a message from you. What, we don't do RVM, but when we were doing SMS, our call flow was anytime somebody called us back on SMS, they were going directly to our voicemail. And if somebody was interested, then we would call them back. Otherwise, vast majority of the calls we were getting were people just wanted to be removed from our list for one reason or the other. And I would imagine, I've never done like RVM, bulk prospecting. I would imagine it's the same case with that. So just something to keep in mind with RVM, you no longer can change the caller ID. So when you're sending an RVM from REsimpli, it would go out from a system generated. We use Drop Cowboy to send RVM. They would have their own caller ID, but somebody when calls you back, it forwards to your REsimpli number. So just something to know. And Camilo had another question. Are the outbound calls you make based off the caret underneath, are those calls recorded?
Yes. So every single phone call that comes through Call Porter is recorded, but also REsimpli, you guys have the capability of recording all your phone calls, which you could hear everything on our end.
Are you guys by default, I'm curious, are you guys by default recording all inbound and outbound calls, or you, depending on the state you're in, now we have the capability of like, you can toggle on or off if you want to record outbound or inbound call, depending on the state. Some people may or may not want to record calls. What do you guys do in those cases?
That's a good question. I would have to get in touch with the call center manager to ask that question. I know. You guys have in REsimpli the capability to turn it off and on per state, right? Yeah.
I mean, depending on the individual, you can do that for every single phone number. You can choose if you want the outbound call and inbound call to be recorded or not. You can do that for each number. So I'm just curious if you guys were doing that. But most of the users, I would say, are default recording outbound and inbound call, which, unless, I mean, these things can come up only if you get into like certain situations where you're just nonstop calling someone without their permission. So cool. Any other questions, guys? Otherwise, okay. Mitchell has a point. For RVM, I would recommend sending to an IVR like CallRail and have them press 1 to be removed, 2 to get off the property. That way, call porter is only. I agree. For RVM,
same thing with text as well. You can, if you drop a number in a text thread, you can do the same thing. It helps filter the people that are pissed off.
Exactly. And I've seen the same thing, at least for us. When we were doing cold calling, we're picking up cold calling again in a month or so. We were noticing the same thing. Majority of the calls we were getting back from our outbound cold calling, most of the people just wanted to be taken off the list, or they would not even listen to the voicemail, just call back because they saw a missed call. So it really helps to have an IVR where you just, if they press 1, they go to a voicemail, and then if they press 2. And what we do is, Mitchell, one other thing we've noticed is, like, instead of doing 1 or 2, we do 1 and 9. Because otherwise, sometimes people would accidentally, input 1 instead of 2 or 2 instead of 1. So we do like 1 or 9. So they're just kind of like, the keys are separated. So this way people are not making as many mistakes.
I love that. I just wrote that down.
So that's what we, instead of like 1 and 2, we do 1 and 9. Or, you can just like some random number. So people have to actually think about it rather than just like, most of the systems that you're going to press 0 and it takes you to an operator. We do like 1 and 9, or just like random number 2 or 8 or something like that. So the keys are separated. Camilo, so he said got a few minutes late, but are the callers in US or outside of US? So Vince, I'll let you answer that, of course.
We're 100% US based. We do have Spanish speakers on our team as well. So if you do have leads that are coming in that need a Spanish speaker, usually we don't have like a direct line to them, just because there hasn't been like a huge need for it. But typically, and our Spanish speaking reps are also US based too. But typically how that works is that Spanish speaker knows enough English to say, I need to speak to someone who speaks Spanish, and we can either live transfer them over, or we put them on hold or put them into a queue, and then the next Spanish speaking rep will hook up with them.
Oh, that's great, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting, in last couple of months, we've seen more people asking for Spanish speaking reps. Like we've noticed in our Facebook group, some investors asking if they know like a Spanish speaking VA. So that's great. You guys are already ahead of that. Yeah, Rob. Yeah, so Vince Hall is from a company called Call Porter. So they provide they're an answering service specifically for real estate investors. They're US based. And a lot of our REsimpli users are using Call Porter and super duper happy with their service. So we're just going over some of the best practices Vince has to share on, what he's noticing some other successful investors doing in their business, that's working for them.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So Vince, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, even though we're a 24/7 call center, sure, we have plenty of investors that use us that way. But again, like another really good practice is if you can't consistently answer, and let's say you do have a team, maybe it's you, an assistant, someone else. We even have investors that set up like a simultaneous ring type scenario. So it'll bump their phones first, and let's say after 4 or 5 rings or whatever, they don't pick up, it'll come over to us. That way you're still not missing a call. I've already talked about the nights and weekends. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can set us up, and REsimpli has all the capabilities for turning on call forwarding, turning it off, when you want to do it, all those things. So just kind of keep that in mind for for the live answering.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, especially for, I think, like there should not be any reason to miss any calls on weekends and on late nights. So having a service, like you said, outside of normal business hours, you could have the calls forwarded to Call Porter, and then your inside team is taking the calls during the normal business hour. Yeah, Camila, if you have a question, if you want to unmute yourself, yeah, go ahead, man.
Yeah, how you doing?
Good, man.
I got another quick question, because I deal with I'm afraid of La Mastu for the cold calling. So you guys take inbound, and if they were to, in a sense, forward the lead to me, that goes into the REsimpli, and you guys are then able to make that follow-up call to gather more information on them. That's pretty much what you're able to do. Or is there a way where I can, if they're doing a live transfer from La Masu to me, where it being directly to your guys, where they're the ones picking up the phone calls? Because in essence, it's almost like a lead manager in a sense, to at least make that initial phone call, get as much information as possible.
Yeah, so it can be a little bit of both. So it's going to be more the latter. So we work pretty closely with lead mining pros as well. They're a cold calling service, and the way that they handle that is whenever they make the cold calls, and someone does call back, it does come to us, and there are the options for an IVR that they do, or you press the option 1 or 2 to be taken off the list or whatever. But when that live call comes in, we'll be the ones to process it. And as long as you're giving us information to a web form with REsimpli and your calendar and things like that, we're just going to process and qualify that lead. We do have a lead follow-up service as well. It's more of like a supplemental lead manager, which I can get more into details about that later if you like, Gerard, or we can talk about it now.
I like the way it's sounding, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to end up getting on the call. Yeah.
So it's the lead follow-up service is something that we just started, and we are only offering to REsimpli users. So we have about 9 to 10 spots left, and basically it's like I said, it's supplemental. So if you do have leads, let's say there were warm leads that have cooled off a bit that you're wanting to rekindle, or you've gotten behind, or you just don't have the time or whatever, our phone reps we have dedicated phone reps specifically for this lead follow-up service for 20 hours out of the month. So they're going to call 1 hour per day for 20 business days out of the month. For that cost is $499. But essentially what they'll do is they can have all the capabilities that you have in REsimpli. So they can call, they can text, they can email, set up drip campaigns, rekindle conversations, set appointments for you, all that stuff. So that's an extra service on top of already using the service.
So which we've done that I believe, Vince, which we've done that with some call porter users, is by adding a rep from call porter as an additional user
Yes.
within REsimpli. So they have access, and you can decide how much access you want to give them. Then this person from call porter is basically acting as your, you're part of your team as a lead manager.
Yeah. And Camilo, you would have access to her as well. So you could email her anytime, talk to her. Yeah.
Okay. No, yeah, I know I'm already super overwhelmed with all the leads that I have, and I'm finally getting.
That's a
I'm
good
finally in the
problem
process of
to
even
have, man.
hiring. I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm finally getting a EA, executive assistant, to be able to help me out with a lot of the small minor things that have too much on my plate on. But
Yeah.
being that I'm a one-person show, having your service along with Lamasu and REsimpli kind of be able to build like a small powerhouse team all in one.
Yeah, for sure. And if any of you are interested in, either just like the general services or that lead follow-up stuff, I'm just going to drop my email in the chat.
And Vince, what we
yeah.
can also do is, I got confirmation that unfortunately the email did not go out to our users. I got
Okay.
confirmation, but we still have a good number of people on the call. So, about the service that you mentioned, if you can share more details with me, what I'll do is we'll email to all our users, letting them know, and then we'll just share your contact information if there's like a calendar link or something where they can book a call with you and find out more about that.
Yeah,
that would be great.
Yeah. For all of you guys, you'll probably just go through our COO. You know Jeremy?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
He and I have been in touch about a couple of things.
Yeah, for sure. So, but yeah, any interest, just email me, and I'll definitely get you guys in the right place.
And Mark has a question, so if you can just go over how much
Mark
is the lead follow-up per month and how many hours per day of calling. So if you can just share.
So right now the price is $499. So for REsimpli users, you're going to get a 10% discount, and that price is going to increase. So you could get grandfathered in on that 10% discount on the $499. That's 20 hours for the month. So essentially what they're going to do is they're going to make those follow-ups for 1 hour per day for 20 business days.
Mark, let me know if you have any other question, then we can go over that. And Vince, what have you noticed? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah, go
Based
ahead.
on that lead follow-up, are we able to determine which hours we want that 1 hour to be?
We can chat about that. Yeah, I mean, the keep in mind the phone rep does work, normal business hours. So yeah, we just have to chat through that. Yeah.
Okay.
So Vince, have you noticed anything, any best practices that you can share, for investors that are starting out or maybe doing, 1 or 2 deals per month? Like, what are some of the best practices that you've noticed, with that compared to investors that are doing 2 to 5 deals or 5+ deals per month? Kind of, if you've noticed any best practices for them that you can share, that they can apply in their business, that would be great.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously just consistency. Like that is the biggest best practice, that like it doesn't matter if you're starting with just a little, as long as you're consistent and just keep going and you're able to scale. There's a lot of investors that this isn't their full-time gig, right? And they're working W-2s, they own other businesses or whatever the case might be, and they're getting into it. And so just consistency marketing your business. And it doesn't have to be anything huge, right? Like it doesn't always have to be direct mail. It doesn't always have to be online leads, just as long as you're consistent with what you're doing. Like we have plenty of successful investors, which I'm sure you do, that the only thing they do is driving for dollars and door hangers, just because they're so niche, they're like really going through their communities. And so the consistency of marketing yourself, but also that consistency of answering those leads. I don't know why any business would market themselves and then just sit back and say, if I can get to it, I'll get to it.
Right.
Which I talk to investors every single day that have lost deals simply because they're not answering their leads. And that's the whole reason why Ryan started the company, right? He was on a date with his wife, the phone rang, and he looked down to answer, and she's like, "Don't you dare." And he called back just a couple hours later and lost a $30,000 deal. And so that's going to
be one of the most expensive dates ever.
Yeah, for real. And like we make fun and we joke and things like that, but at the end of the day, it's like it's serious for for a lot of investors what puts food on their table and pays their mortgage and things of that sort. So if it's a serious business for you, answering those calls, whether it's somebody like Call Porter or another live answering center, or your wife or your sister or a brother, or somebody needs to be answering those calls when you can't.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. At the end of the day, every single marketing channel works if you do it long enough.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what it is. Every single channel works. Some are going to give you higher, ROI
Return,
versus
yeah.
others. Yeah, at the end of the day, every single marketing channel works without question if you stick with it long enough. And
Yeah.
another thing I would say is, if you're going to invest time and money into any marketing channel, only do it if you have processes on the back end. If you're not going to be taking calls consistently, if you're not going to be following up, I would say don't even do it. You might get lucky in some campaign where you might get a deal, in just because you happen to pick up a call, somebody is super motivated, you go sign a contract, you make some 20,000-30,000 on it. But on the long-term basis, if you are not answering calls live, and if you're not following up on these calls, or not have follow-up processes, then I would say might as well not even start with the marketing processes, because you're just going to be wasting a lot of money, get frustrated, and not see the results just because you don't have the processes built in. Yeah. So I agree with you in that sense.
And there are a lot of investors out there who are ready, and
Right.
That's your competition. They're ready. They have system and processes. They can answer their phones. They can follow up. They can get in front of you and win the game. And so that's essentially, why we're here, especially for the online capture, online lead capture and dial, right? If someone found your website on Google,
right,
for a cash offer on their home, do you think they're just going to stop at your website? No, they're going to go to 2, 3, 4 more and enter in their information and see which investors are going to call them first.
Right. Yeah, and then the faster you can get in touch with that lead, and then take them off the computer, basically move the conversation away from then filling out more forms and engage them into like the next step of your sales process, the higher chance you have of getting those deals. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to be sitting back, especially on these online leads, that if you're spending money on PPC paper lead, you might be spending like $100, $200, $300 per lead. You really, really want to make sure that you're getting in touch with them as quickly as possible. If you get these people to call you back, if you spend the money on like these TV ads or radio ads, and these people are actually calling you back, those inbound leads are going to be more motivated than the outbound leads where you're reaching out to them versus these people reaching out to you. So you want to make sure once they reach out to you, you have a really good process where they feel like, okay, they've called the right person to help them close their, help them sell their house. So that's really, really super important. So cool. Vince, anything else that you have to share? We'll send the email out to all our users and also put on our Facebook group for anybody interested. But anything else that you want to share, or if anybody else has any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself or put it in the chat.
Yeah, for sure. And the really only other thing I wanted to say was, if you ended up using our services, we are a monthly subscription. So you don't have to sign any contracts with us. And the investment is anywhere from as low as $49 a month all the way up to $1,249 a month. So we appropriately put you in a pricing tier that makes sense for your business based upon your expected call volume, what your marketing looks like. So we have a pretty good onboarding process that helps to figure that out, and then you kind of go from there. So just kind of wanted to throw that out there.
And then they can go up and down in the plan that they're in.
Yep. Yeah. So like right now is a perfect example. The holiday season, there are a lot of investors that tone it back. I would encourage you to tone it up. That's just my own personal opinion. Because even though maybe your response rates are going to be lower November, December, but come January, you're going to have a great pipeline when other investors are behind you. So, but yeah, you can turn it down. So if you turn your marketing down or don't have much coming in, you can drop down a tier. Or if you're like, trying to scale your business and you're like, I got tons of stuff going on, you can scale up. So you just have to let us know before the next billing cycle, and we can change things up.
Cool. Awesome, man. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Anybody else has any question for Vince? We'll send an email out with his, Vince's contact information and the plan that he had mentioned. So you guys can, jump on a call with him or somebody on Call Porter's team to get any specific questions answered. But anything else while we have him on the call? Awesome, man. Yeah.
Awesome. There we go. I knew they were popping in.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So I know I'm in Long Island, New York, and somehow got some leads from Indiana come in via PPC from someone who's looking to retire and unlearn. Yeah, I mean, I am not in any one of those towns. I'm just in Northwest Indiana. But if you want to post it on our Facebook group about those, I know there are other investors in those markets. If you want to send that over to me, I can connect you with a couple of people that I know are in that market in Indiana. I'm just in Northwest Indiana market right outside of Chicago. But if you want to shoot me an email, Sharad at REsimpli.com, we can definitely connect and I can connect you with some other investors who buy in that market. Cool. Thank you, Vince. That was really great information, man.
Yeah, for sure. I love being here and definitely want to do it again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We'll do another one after the holidays. I feel like personally, I mentally start checking out, like, just right around the Thanksgiving time. I'm going to India this week on Friday, so I'm going to be there for 3 weeks. So yeah, just like the year-end time, I just kind of, take a break, spend time with family and stuff.
Yeah,
so
same. Yeah, I got a baby due on Saturday.
So. Oh, wow. Yeah, congratulations, man. Yeah. First one?
Nope.
No. Fifth one?
My fifth one.
Oh my God, dude.
Yeah, now the comments are going to come in. Oh, that boy's crazy.
Oh my God. Dude. My wife and I have two, and people ask us, hey, do you think about getting third? We're like, no, we wanted to save our marriage and just stick with two. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I love kids. My former life, I was a fifth and sixth grade science teacher, so
oh wow.
I definitely know how to deal with a lot of kids.
How old is your oldest one?
13.
13. Oh man, you have a teenager and now you're gonna have an infant. That's gonna be interesting. Yeah, but congratulations, man.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, so I'll be out of commission here for a couple of weeks.
Oh no,
Saturday.
Man. Yeah. You need a little bit more time than that. With 5 kids. Cool. All right, Vince. Yeah, if you can send me that information, then we'll send an email out to all our users. We can send one out today, and we'll make sure it actually goes out. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
Cool.
I'll draft an email. All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate the time.
If you guys have any questions, you can put it on our Facebook group, or you can email us at support@REsimpli. But we'll be sending an email out shortly with everything Vince covered and the plan that he was talking about and all the information. Thank you.